everybody, and welcome to Queued Up. Thanks for joining us here today. I'm CJ, aka the Pathfinder. With us as a guest, the one and only Justin Meta Pusher to my right. With us, who's normally here, the one and only Michael Kepley Tumbleweed.
I don't know why I fingered that.
It was cool.
It was
signature
cool.
move. Signature move.
You're sig.
And last, Davis, the Tadlock, the Tad.
Still developing my signature move.
It's hard to beat the gun.
Exactly.
I took the
point.
classic. Sometimes I do 2 fingers, sometimes I do 1. That's where I mix it up.
Always mixing it up, this guy. Speaking of mixing it up, this weekend we got to see the reveal of a wonderful, amazing game that Bungie's been creating for a long, long time in secret. Marathon One and Only, an extraction shooter that they were very excited about because they run a 4-hour stream. And so I want to know, guys, what do we think about Marathon? I'm going to come with David. Davis, I'm going to you first. What do we think about Marathon? What did you think of the release?
So I think it's a really cool idea. I'm a big fan of extraction shooters, number one. So I think that they could do a really good job with it. I am interested to see, though, because this is my first extraction shooter that has more of a cartoony type of graphics to it.
Yeah.
I thought it looked really cool. Interested to play it and see how it feels, but cool.
Justin, the same?
Yeah, not actually the same. I was a little bit unimpressed. I'm not someone who's really ever played the extraction shooter genre, so dipping their toes into that field really does nothing for me to gain much. The trailer looked cool, and I'll probably play it because a bunch of people in the office, a bunch of my friends like that type of game, but it didn't do that much to sell me on it. I'll be honest, I felt like if you went back maybe 8 years and you put a Halo player and you showed them blind test Splitgate trailer versus Marathon trailer, which one do they think Bungie made? I don't think they're going to pick Marathon. So I think there's some room to grow in there and maybe win other people over.
Dude, I had not thought about it in the arena of if I looked at a Halo trailer and then watched it, and that's so true. I would not want to play this. I wouldn't think the same amount of hype exists if I were watching this compared to Halo, because Halo had so much more hype around it than anything else. Kepley?
I really liked it. I think the art style is unique, right? So I think it's going to stand out. I don't know why you made that face. Yeah, I think the art style is good, right? It's going to grow on people. The weapons are a little blocky. I'm interested to see that evolve as you find different attachments and how that changes the gun. So I'm assuming that they left design space there so you can get more fancy attachments and all that. We kind of saw the costume design. I'm interested enough, right, to entertain looking at the game. There are some questions that devs answered in interviews after the fact. So we've heard now that there are going to be some dungeon/raid style experiences, right? And to find those, you get some legendary loot in the game. But I just don't know the depth of the game yet. So, one of the big appeals to Tarkov is I'll go back and I can do these quests, right? I want this so I can progress, get the Kappa case, etc. Yeah. And I don't see what the end game is yet for Marathon, and that's my biggest doubt with it right now is that. And then also the most heartbreaking announcement that there's no proximity chat, which I think is to me, that's really critical in a game like that, to be able to mess with your opponents or have those interactions. Now, admittedly, a lot of people don't take full advantage of that. I think they should. I blame Discord for that, but it's nice to just have that feature there as an option.
I think not including that is definitely a negative to the way that your game can succeed, because those sort of moments I think are the most viral ones. The ones that I see from games like that just get up onto my Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts are the moments where organically people just run into each other and have these crazy interactions, talking to each other, killing each other and stuff. So not really sure if what they gain by, protecting the player base is worth what they're losing by missing out on those iconic moments.
A lot of hate right now, too. If you look at the internet, there's just so much skepticism around it. And you can tell the Bungie crew is excited about it themselves. So my heart kind of goes out to that group because I don't know. We haven't played it, right? We saw a trailer. And I think that it kind of gives me this jaded perspective because I know what Bungie can be because I've seen Halo, love Halo. Played Destiny 2. Great games, have some depth to them. They were fun, right? They had moments of them that were very exciting. But overall, when I look at it, it's tough to figure out what this box is, and I think it does ask a lot of questions. I also think this is a feedback loop for them, right? They're going to hear these things and be like, oh, we might have to change XYZ thing that we thought was going to go this way and it's now going the other way. Or maybe not, because sometimes the community has a pretty crap opinion, right? We might have a bad opinion that just doesn't exist for them in their realm and the way they're trying to do things. So it's tough to I see the hate, but I also I am slightly excited to play it, but I'm not overly excited to play it.
Yeah.
That's the same place I'm at. And one more thing that I'm a little bit skeptical of is the fact that they're going to have abilities in the game. So one thing, like with me coming from Tarkov, and it's very like methodical, kind of slow movement. There's nothing like that in the game. I just hope they're not too broken and cause too many problems within the gunplay.
Yeah, but I agree with that too because we're gonna have 6 agents right at launch, but I think there's only like 3 or 4 in their alpha test. But as you add more of those, like we see with Valorant's a prime example. Abilities can just get wild, right? Because you got to keep trying to raise the bar so people don't get bored, and also you don't have any like roster limitations. So if you have, they have like the stealth guy or the guy that has wall hacks, right? That agent in there now. So it's like those 2 alone sound really good. So you have to run wall hack guy to counter smoke guy. You start adding more depth in that, it's going to get really chaotic. So balance is going to definitely be something critical for them.
That's where I lost most of my initial interest in it. Whenever they showed the first wall hack thing, and I saw that it looked like a Sova dart from Valorant, almost just showed the entire building. I was like, okay, well, if that was in Tarkov, I would freak out. So
yeah, and I think people need to really temper expectations. So I think that like this was the same way I would argue with Tarkov when Tarkov launched. When it comes out in September, like you are not going to get the final product. Like, you're going to have to let that roast in the oven for a little while because even when Tarkov first came out, Tarkov was just a shell of what it is today. So, it kind of does suck because Bungie has the cheat code, right, with Tarkov of what works and what doesn't. Tarkov was first, as far as I know, in that genre. And so for them to start a little short, quick, like slow pace there, it does suck, but people need to give that time. If you spend $40, you may get that value tripled, quadrupled, right, as the years go on.
Totally. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, I think we could talk a lot about, what ifs, but ultimately it's one of those things where we saw the reveal, and now we get to ponder all these things and wait. So if you're checking this out for the first time, we talked marathon obviously first, but we are going to jump into our normal scheduled show, which is first we're going to say, did you hear about? So we're going to cover some basic esports news, and then we're going to do some VOD review from that esports news. We're going to do a new segment called Clutch or Kick, where we vote on some community posts on X. And lastly, we'll close with the Showdown, which is another new segment. So we got 2 secrets for you. But if you have any exciting thoughts about Marathon that need to go in the chat based off of your opinion, go ahead and throw them down there, and we'll read them and reply. We were going to go do that for you because we love you. Okay, cool. Going into the news of the day, we're starting with PGL Bucharest. We had some great Counter-Strike this weekend. I love it when we get to watch a major event. This is a $1.25 million prize. We get to see Falcons walk away from it. G2 ended up in the finals against them. But before we got to that moment, we had some teams that had some notable mentions. We had Virtus Pro that made it there, Complexity, the American favorites. So if you're from America, you're obviously going to vote for Complexity a little bit. We had FaZe Clan versus 3D Max in our first quarterfinal match on the bottom side. And Davis, I'm coming to you first, and you know exactly why, because last week you picked 3D Max to go and win it all. They showed up in that first match against FaZe, and they looked like they hadn't played Counter-Strike in their life before.
I don't think they showed up.
Zero round wins in the first map, 5 in the second map. Just an extreme disappointment from 3D Max in this matchup. I was really hoping for big things. Obviously, as you said, I did pick them to go through and maybe win the tournament. Had big wins against Aurora, Astralis, and Mongols all in their group phase. So, yeah, I was really expecting them to go far. And like you said, it looked like they had never played the game before. So FaZe came in and took care of them, sent them home. Disappointing.
Against the FaZe, that didn't look good either, which is crazy to me. And I love that you picked the underdog of 3D Max because, like, I think they do have some inspiring moments. Like, that team has shown that they can show up, but they did not this time. And that's super disappointing, but at least those players did get an opportunity to look at their first playoff run.
Yeah.
That's good.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, I think on the FaZe side, Frozen and Brokey just really showed up in that game. So, like, while they didn't look good holistically, I mean, whatever happened against 3D Max, whether 3D Max is just that bad, right? Like, I hate to say that, or if FaZe just actually had one moment where they finally all clicked, you just really got to see that shine with Frozen and Brokey. I mean, they put up like
crazy numbers,
50 kills to combine and nuke.
Yeah, FaZe is such a weird team. They're so on and off. They're like, you really can't predict them. I feel like in a big tournament with all the big dogs who weren't here at Bucharest, you can predict them to lose pretty regularly, but in this one, it's like they're winning a bunch and losing a bunch. Yeah, FaZe is so weird.
Yeah, really strange. The other side of the bracket, we had Aurora go against Complexity, and Aurora, our old Eternal Fire roster, for those who remember them just weeks ago, they were Eternal Fire, and they're now Aurora. A roster that we've seen, they're very explosive, they're very good. They fell a little bit short against Complexity, and a good Halzark That guy was. Is that how you say his name? Halzark, is that right?
Yeah, Halzark.
Halzark, yeah. I mean, he looked like he was amazing through that whole series. Justin, did you check that one out?
Yeah. No, Halzark was definitely just in flow state towards the end of that, clutching everything up. I was pretty disappointed to see Aurora fall right there. It's a little bittersweet, losing to an NA team. Aurora was my pick to win Bucharest. I thought that they're leaning into their break that they have, all their health issues. I thought this was going to be like a honeymoon where they could really pour their all into this tournament and then take a nice little break and be ready for post IM Melbourne. So really just tough loss for them, but Complexity was on a tear this tournament, really scaring, I think, everybody that ran into them. If you weren't G2 or Falcons, I think that was an incredibly tough matchup. They played good throughout the whole thing and really played well.
Yeah. And Grimm, another player on that roster that would just stand out. Go ahead, Davis.
Yeah, I was going to say Grimm as well. 2 players for Complexity, both Grimm and Halzark in the top 8 for all players across the entire tournament. So it shows how good they were playing. The only other team that had 2 in the top 8 was G2, a finalist. So it shows, just how good they were doing. Really big confidence booster for this team too. Coming into it, we weren't really sure how good Complexity was, how good they were going to be able to match up versus some of these teams. And I think they impressed everybody.
Yeah, that's a team that I think I'm going to root for pretty consistently, no matter what spot they're in, just because I like watching them play. But do they have the firepower at the end of the day? I think the answer to the question is the question, but I don't know the answer to that question. So.
Yeah.
Kep?
If Halzark keeps developing, we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
A great tournament from him. So if they can have him perform like that and build around that, I think they could be really good.
Yeah.
Well said.
We'll jump to Falcons versus FaZe Clan, the bottom of this bracket. By the way, the top of it, G2 kind of cruised their way through to the finals. But the bottom of it, Falcons, FaZe Clan face off against an interesting series. That game 3 is really the one that stands out to me. Fall really flat in that game 3. Brokey, a tried and true veteran, just did not perform that day.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Brokey didn't show up, and it seemed like all that synergy they had built upon when going against 3D Max was just gone, right? And I think that speaks to what Justin was saying. It's the wishy-washiness, right, of just FaZe. It's like you don't know what you're going to get every time they go in, which is weird considering that someone who's coming into the scene kind of blind, right? I hear all this hype around FaZe and Kerrigan as an IGL. It just seems like they can't get their ducks in a row. So I feel like something needs to swap there. I just can't put my finger on what it is.
Yeah, I don't know what it is either. It's like you think Kerrigan, Rain, Elige, all these guys, Elige being new on that, Rops being, kind of the transfer of that originally, but a roster I think should just be in the grand finals every time. I've seen them in the grand finals multiple times. And it's like, I think the question came up on our Discord as we were looking at stuff is like, is Kerrigan the issue? What's going on with this roster? Why aren't they performing? I don't know.
I think they need some more firepower. That's just the bottom line. These guys aren't as dominant as they were. They're not putting up the numbers that they were before. I mean, this was a very close series, so really, I'm not trying to throw any shade phases away. They took Falcons the distance. I mean, that map 2, 14, 16 was really good, and like I don't think if Dexter wasn't going crazy like he was in that whole series, FaZe probably going to win it. So a little bit of consolation there, but I do think they just need some more. I saw some. I think they need to sign Simple. That's what I think.
There you go.
Just real simple, real easy.
Simple solution.
Yeah.
Bring in a couple clutch factors. I don't know. Well, I think that we did see a grand finals, though. It wasn't close. It was summed up in one round, and it was the first round of the actual game on Mirage. Play the clip. Go ahead, Prod. Let's see it.
And Falcons awaiting the eruption from G2 as they start to come out of ramp and Palace at the same time. Nico gets cleared first. No longer able to defend this A site. Plants coming in. Match is under pressure. M0NESY marches forward. Site taken. G2 have it pretty much locked in from this point onwards.
Oh yeah, those USPs didn't get anything done. The Glocks have so much space. They know they've gushed up Tesses. Good shot onto Molbs and a follow-up with red HP. Okay, Falcons all of a sudden are like, we have a chance at this.
Yeah, well, Kicksan trying to leap over the ticket box. Time is the problem. They have to move swiftly. Another headshot for Kicksan, but Snacks going down as well.
Way.
They have fought their way back into an unthinkable round. And that defuse, it's being stuck around the corner. Hunter chasing down. Full 10-second stick. Fended off by Dexter. And what a recovery in the first round of his grand final from Falcons.
Well, if your team who's got a reputation for throwing some silly rounds and losing some silly situations, this is the worst way to start a grand final.
So we see G2 just fumble that first round. They had all the position. They threw 2 bodies through connector to try and finish a kill. It was basically a 2.1 versus a 5, and they'd throw the round away. And that was really the finals through and through, right? G2 threw rounds away the entire time. Kepley, what'd you think?
Saw a lot of frustration out of M0NESY over there on the G2 side, so you could tell, right, when they were going to player cams. Like, we didn't get to hear what was being said, but you could tell there was some upset there. And, I mean, Falcons came to play, right? They came to claim their prize, which was M0NESY. So, you know, kind of like self-plug on my Twitter. I put a meme that I thought was kind of funny, wrestling, but, you know, I don't have many followers. But so it's like it summed up the whole situation to me, right? It's just like M0NESY, right? If these two teams just competing for M0NESY at this point, like, M0NESY's gone either way. But if you're G2, just imagine how, you know, horrible that feels, right, as a player. Is you're playing here with M0NESY. M0NESY's getting frustrated with you, and it just feels like you're further doubling, tripling down on the case that he should leave, and you're going against the team that just stole Hiko from you, or is it Nico? Nico.
Yeah.
Hiko's the other big Valorant player, but Nico. They just stole Nico from you, so you're just like, it's got to be a terrible feeling. How can you ever get motivated on the G2 roster?
Tough.
It's a statement round for sure. And one of those crazy rounds, like when it's just pure chaos, I feel like as a player, you kind of know that that's like, there's no planning. It's not like our coach or our IGL really set this up. It's just player on the server going against each other. And so losing that definitely feels bad. I mean, that was such a chaotic point. The first kill, when they just come running in, flying, spin around, and absolutely kill him, it looked so chaotic there. I thought I was watching Valorant.
Yeah. And there was some good awareness on those players because, like, the Falcon guy runs out, he throws his pistol because he's out of ammo to pick up the one on the ground and start shooting. It's like, those are plays that I never think to make. So, awesome awareness there. You were going to say I cut you off?
All I was going to say was that was a ridiculous throw from G2, and they if they played like that the whole series, there's no wonder they lost. But what I was going to say, actually, when you were talking, was I had the same thing written down. Falcons on a fairy tale, G2 left in the dust, because, I mean, Falcons just keeps taking all their players. Like you said, G2 makes it to this moment. I honestly would have really liked to see G2 win this event, just because of the fact that they're taking their best player, just, you know, give them a little bit of a consolation prize almost. But it seems like G2 is kind of left with nothing. You know, second place, their best player leaves. They're in this turmoil. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and this whole, I think there's a lot of depth to this finals in the fact that M0NESY is now leaving G2. He's going to join Falcons. And so the Falcons beat G2. I would say a not great G2. They're a mid-pack team right now when we compare them to the rest of the guys. Like, I think Mongols should be here in this conversation. I think there's the Spirits of the Worlds, the Maus, the Vitality, all those guys. But, you know, when I look at it, it's like, is M0NESY enough to then rise the Falcons up to that level? Is Falcons now a top 3 team? Are they going to, you know, insert themselves between Spirit and Maus? Or are they going to be able to say, hey, that's enough to take them over Vitality right now? I think for me, and I'll answer this question first for myself, and then you guys can let me know, but, like, I think the answer is no. Like, I just don't see it. I think that Nico is still not performing in the way that he needs to in order to make that happen. NAF is also in that same kind of bucket where these are, like, tried and true guys, but I just don't see them actually getting the upgrade enough to make them the elite level team, even though they did win this kind of mid-event.
Yeah, I'm in that same boat. So for me, it's like you look at them winning this event, and Dexter played his butt off. Like, he absolutely carried them through most of these matches. And so you bring M0NESY in as to be that character and to do basically the same thing that he did. I mean, you can't really get much better than what Dexter did for them in this tournament. So when I look at it, I don't really think much changes bringing M0NESY in and, you know, dropping Dexter, especially when you look at it from how good he played this event.
I think your team gets a little bit more consistent, but I don't think it puts you in that top 3 spot. Because, like, if you look at it, I mean, Falcons, they squeaked in to even make the playoff run. They beat Mongols. Like, if Mongols wins that, Falcons isn't even here.
That's right. Yeah, and that was one round.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's 1 round difference. Is M0NESY enough to take you to a top 3 team? I don't think no, but I do think it sets the stage to get you more consistent because there's a lot of hype around this Falcon round. So you have apparently, you know, based on what the commentators would say at PGL, you have apparently the best coach in the league. You have M0NESY, who's regarded as the best opera in the game. You have a phenomenal IGL, and then you have one of the best riflers in the game. So you have all the recipe for success. So now if you do this $2.5 million buy and you don't go to this major and win, like, you kind of look like fools, honestly.
Yeah. I like the move. I think that adding M0NESY over Dexter makes them slightly better, but I don't think it pushes them up into, like, a true competitor for that top 3, like you're saying. I think it does add consistency, and I also think that M0NESY's firepower will hold up a little bit better against the top teams than Dexter's does. I think in a smaller level tournament like this, where we're missing, Zaiwu, Torzy, a bunch of these top players, Dexter really shines. He doesn't really have that looming pressure of facing off against a top dog like that. So he can kind of play freely and make those mistakes. But when I see him in the majors against the top teams, he doesn't perform that way. So I think that someone like M0NESY could bring that. There's a lot higher upside there. The question, though, is, Falcons as an org, are they a team that is looking for upside to build for years and years in the future? Or are they looking to win a championship now? Only the management and stuff could answer that question. But I do like the M0NESY pickup. I think Dexter played so good that it left a little bit of a weird taste in our mouth. But if we have this conversation a week ago before the tournament, we're all going to be pretty positive on M0NESY.
See, I like Dexter. I think he's played fine.
Yeah.
I do think he's been good for that roster. He showed up in big moments. And I'd put him in the same bucket as like a Shiro. Like he's made, I don't think he's the Zaiwu level, right? And I think Torzi's probably playing a little bit higher the level than some of those guys too, where it's like, I think Zaiwu and Torzi up here, and I think you can bring Dexter into that conversation. And it's weird because when I look at M0NESY on that G2 roster, sure, he is performing from a stats perspective, but I don't know if, like I said, I don't know if that's enough. I don't think you really upgraded in a big way. Now, the world would say yes, but we won't know until it actually happens. And I think the other thing that happens is this G2 roster's in a weird place now too, because it's what are they gonna do next? Now, obviously, they got some money. They now have some dollars to do some stuff with, so they can go get some big stuff. But will they actually? What does that rebuild look like? I think they're going to be in a weird phase right now. I'm not sure what's going to happen with those guys at all.
Yeah, I think they'll be back just because G2 is, a European giant. I think eventually they'll be back. It just depends on how long it's going to take them because they're definitely, losing their. M0NESY has been their guy since they bought him from Na'Vi. They've done everything to make sure that kid shines. Obviously, to lose him, it's going to be big repercussions for the team.
Hey, just like FaZe, just go get Simple.
Simple solution.
That's right. That's right.
Simple solution. All right. FaZe also did get third place and took down Complexity in that third place final. So honorable mention to the FaZe boys, even though we hated on them a little bit today.
Which a lot better than I expected coming in for sure. I did not expect FaZe to be top 3.
For both of those teams. I think seeing those two teams in the third place match, big surprise. I would have loved for a little bit of a consolation prize for Complexity, but
yeah,
it's all right.
Made me feel better about the Mongols, right? You lost to the champs. How bad can that be?
Yeah.
Hey, there it is.
Cope.
Cool. Switching gears. Oh, switching gears. Love it. Going to the next thing. We're going to talk some League of Legends. First off, I'll jump over to you too, Mr. Davis, to kind of lead us through some of these things. But the first thing, if we want to throw up that graphic of Mr. Faker himself being able to do all these things, go ahead, take it away, Davis.
Yeah, so Faker actually played his 1,000th game in the LCK this weekend. So congratulations to him. Just absolutely insane numbers. Look at that. 4,388 days since his debut.
Insane.
I was just a little child.
2013. How old were you in 2013, Davis?
I was 12 at that time.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I was
That's
12 years
crazy
old,
to
about
think
to turn
about.
13.
Crazy.
The living legend.
Yeah. He is Faker, true legend, the actual GOAT. I feel like one of the most undeniable GOATs across any esports, and the stats back it up, man. This is just absurd.
He's earned a lot of gold.
Yeah, I think one thing to talk about too is, he's been on the same organization too since 2013. So it just shows how established and the GOAT status that he's at. You really don't see that in esports ever. And he's been there. That's his home.
And that's only talking LCK specific stats, in their native region. That graphic does not include any of his vast amount of Worlds appearances, World Championship victories. Faker's insane.
He is.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just interesting to you see in that graphic, his number one champ is Azir. So it's crazy when you think back to how Faker almost wasn't even a part of SKT anymore. They were trying to replace him with EasyHoon. And because at that time, Faker was known for, your Zed, your assassin type picks. Riven kind of fits into that playground, but he didn't play a lot of control mages. And so kind of like we're seeing now with Fearless Draft, right? They brought in a 6-man EasyHoon. EasyHoon excelled at control mages, and it made Faker rise up to the point where Azir's now his number one pick.
Made him rise up?
Yeah, rise up.
Right.
And I also put his note, just as fun facts, that his first game ever, he played Nidalee, right, in the mid lane, and then not in his top 5 champ on that graphic, but he does have a Hall of Fame skin for it with Ahri. That was his 1,000th game, was on Ahri.
Oh, there you go. Hey,
Yeah.
love that. Cool. And then we had some matches this weekend. Go ahead, Davis.
Yeah, changing on from that to look at some of the matches. The matches across all of the LTA North this week were kind of bare. We could have probably predicted the winners of every match, but we are going to look at the ones that we talked about on Thursday to look out for. So FlyQuest versus 100 Thieves. FlyQuest with a pretty dominant victory there. It was pretty much always in their control. Bwipo was very dominant throughout the match. And Inspired. I mean, Inspired is looking to be one of the best junglers, if not the best jungler in the region right now. I want to hear you guys' opinion on that. But FlyQuest is rolling.
He is. I mean, Inspired has kind of been the top dog in the jungle, not just in NA. Before he came here, he was top dog in Europe, and kind of, I think the opinion was that he felt like there were better junglers in NA, so he wanted to come to this region to compete against them and potentially make the best team. So Inspired's insane. He plays the most champions. He's got like the most like conductor style control over the game of his team. Like he's calling plays, he's setting stuff up, he's helping out in draft. I can't say enough good things about this guy.
I agree. I mean, Inspired is just a heck of a player. And, you know, I used to be a big fan of like Blabber on C9 and stuff like that. But this guy, I mean, Inspired, he's just putting on a heck of a show. And Xin Xiao, he is really showing what that champ can do. He seems to be his comfort pick, but I know that his champ pool runs deep. So.
Yeah.
FlyQuest, undefeated. What's the more to say, right?
Yeah.
Got a great jungler.
And then going on to our next one, we're going to look at Liquid versus Leon. Kind of a crazy match, in my opinion. Like, I really thought going into this match that Leon would kind of just get blown over from my understanding of, you know, the LTA North. But they actually put up a solid fight up until around the 30-minute mark is when I have marked. There was a crucial Baron play that Liquid was able to secure, and then kind of after that, just kind of snowballed to a win. But, I mean, Leon was there neck and neck for a large majority of the game and kind of surprised me.
Is that actually how you say that?
No, it's a
Leon?
line.
It's a line.
It's Lion.
Lion.
Yes.
Yeah.
They have been the big surprise, though, out of that bottom four team. You know, everybody very clearly knew that we were going to have a bottom four and a top four, but Lion's been dominating in those matches. People think they're really solid. They've shown a lot of mechanical talent on some difficult-to-play champions that you usually see bottom teams fail with. Yone, Rise, things like this. I think they're really the only threat from watching some of the content that, you know, the LTA puts out, their podcasts with the pros and all that stuff. It's really the only team that these top four guys are even vaguely worried about. They do their due diligence and take every match seriously, but Lion seems to be the only real threat in there. They've got them as a, like, you know, there was three of the top teams on the podcast this morning, and they were like, yeah, that's the fifth looking to break their way into the top four.
Yeah, Lion versus TL in a best-of-3 series, I think, is a very, very intriguing one after this. I mean, obviously, these best-of-1s for positionings as they go into the groups, but we'll definitely get to see that matchup at some point, and that'll be a banger, I'm sure.
For sure.
You stole the words right out of my mouth. I actually think Lion are better than Liquid. I know this best-of-1 doesn't show it, but I think that if you go the series, I think Lion are going to upset them. And 100 Thieves, even though 100 Thieves isn't in that top four, I mean, that roster is so star-studded that it's going to be hard to deny them from. I expect like the finals is most likely probably going to be like FlyQuest versus 100 Thieves or Cloud9.
Yeah.
But Lion is making a case that they should be here, and I love that, right? Because Dignitas and Shopify you don't really get to talk about as much, but Lion entering that conversation just makes the region as a whole better, and that's what we need.
It does, and I think it also brings some credence and some like relevance to the whole idea of having the North and the South. You know, that Lion team is the team that got moved up from the LLA. They're very diverse. They've got Canadian top, some Latin American players in jungle, some Korean players. So, like, I think it really shows the recipe that the LCS team and they're like, you know, the conductors, Mark Z, the commissioner, were kind of hoping for. So it would be good for the league, I think, to see Lion kind of break into that top four and throw some chaos into the mix.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, cool. And so to kind of wrap up here on the League of Legends, there is 1 week remaining left in this positioning phase. FlyQuest is the only team that remains undefeated at 4-0, followed by Cloud9 and Lion at 3-1, and also Team Liquid at 3-1. We have 100 Thieves sitting in 5th at 2-2, Shopify at 1-3 in 6th, and then rounding out the positioning phase, 7th and 8th, Dignitas and Disguise, who have yet they got to secure a win.
Hot take, is FlyQuest going undefeated?
No.
I'm
I don't
saying
think
no.
so.
They're going to lose the Lion, huh?
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking they're
Yeah.
going to lose the Lion.
Yeah.
I think they're going to. I think FlyQuest play with too much overconfidence, right? We
Yes.
saw that against Shopify. I think that's going to get the better of them against Lion. I think Lion's going to sneak out a win.
Especially, this should be truly guaranteed top spot for them. If they're already 4-0, that means they win the head-to-head against the team. Even if they lose this one, I think you're 100% right there. Because, like, Bwipo Inspired, these guys love playing crazy stuff. We might see Fiddlesticks in the jungle. We might see Ringar top. Like,
Hey,
there's so
That's me,
many.
dude.
Hey.
That's me. I don't want to brag. I got the best Fiddlesticks on the planet. I challenge anyone.
Even Inspired?
And even Inspired.
Hey,
I
okay.
know Fiddle, man.
I know the fiddle. Oh,
And that is one of Inspired's, like,
yeah.
big pocket picks. So I wouldn't surprise me to see that.
Interesting. Cool. Well, Well, thanks for guiding us through that section, Davis. We're going to jump over to Valorant now. We had some exciting matches and some upsets that happened in there. Kepley, go ahead, take it away, man.
Okay, we start off. We have G2 taking out Leviathan, which I don't know if I count that as an upset or not. I mean, if you look at the standings, it is, but I think that when I was looking earlier on in the season, Leviathan was one of those top 2 teams. It was G2 and Leviathan, so seeing them kind of drift down the standings is a bit of a surprise, but G2 get that win. We had the biggest upset ever on the bracket where EG, I mean, just dismantled Crew. And then we had MIBR, they kind of lock in their playoffs. So we just dial it back for a second. Let's talk through that, right? G2 over Leviathan. Did anybody get to watch that game? It was a banger.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You want to check it out?
I mean, it was. I didn't think it was going to be as close as it was, but it was. I mean, they took that game 2 away from them. Like, I did not expect that to happen, and they look like they have some explosive moments, and I think that's interesting, especially in like all these games where it's so momentum based. Like, you have an explosive moment, and you can just capitalize it. But the follow up is the problem, right? They just cannot close out that third one because that third one did not look that close.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're putting a lot of pressure on like Demon One's shoulders, right?
Yeah.
Where he's that guy that's always performing on Leviathan, but he just, if he's performing, but if the other team members don't step up, like you can't expect one guy to 1v5 at this caliber of the league.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, right? G2 is setting themselves up for a great. They have Cloud9 this coming week, to maybe go that perfect streak for this group phase. So that's good. Anyone else have an opinion on this before we move on?
I think that I think that they will end up undefeated next week. And I also wanted to mention that in this game against Leviathan, they did lose the one map. It was on Fracture, and it's clearly G2's worst map. They actually have a 14% win rate on Fracture through 8 matches. So really need to tune that up if they want to compete and just be better, well-rounded. But I do think that was one big point to why Leviathan won the map. I don't think this series was really that close.
Yeah, and I agree overall. I think that there's a lot of pressure on Demon One, and for some reason, there's all this like confusion about who's playing Duelist, who's playing Smokes. Like, one map you have King playing it, one map you have Demon One playing it, and I just fundamentally I don't think that that's the way that a team can succeed. If you're trying to compete with teams at this level, you need people who are practicing their role and only their role. They know it better than anybody because that's what the other teams have. So something's got to be solved there. They gotta figure that out, whether it's coaching staff forcing someone to do a certain thing, or I don't know if coaching staff is the one making these decisions and the coaching staff needs to get over it. But I think they need to find that stability and really be able to lock in and focus on their improvements.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we go to the other game. If you ask EG if Batman or Superman is better, they're going to tell you Superman is the best because he went 43-19 in that series. That's plus 24 for the folks that are bad at math at home. And he had 43% of those were headshots across the series. So he went absolutely wild. And to counter your point, so I'll bounce it right back to you, EG showed the most prep they've ever shown in a series. They did some role swaps too. We saw actually that Ye swapped over to the Jet, and that's apparently offhand from his role. I don't know the history on that. I'm still learning, but the caster said it, so I'm going to bounce it back to you. Was that a surprising thing to you? Do they need to have their spot, or do you want to be open to flexibility based on what EG showed? I
am a results-based analyst, and I think that when EG did it, it was great because they won. Yeah. No, I think there's a time and a place for it, and if you're well prepped for a role switch like that and there's strategy behind it, then that is a useful thing to try and implement. Whereas what Leviathan seems to be doing is like constantly having issues and just switching up who's doing what to try and find a solution. It doesn't feel like their method is as like direct and planned the way that EG was. So that's really kind of like the difference that I feel like there.
And one thing I will say, I think it makes it easier for this switch is because back in the day when Ye was playing on C9, he actually did play Duelist and Jet was like his main. So I think it makes him a lot easier to switch back into that role now that he's on this team. It's kind of like a comfort thing that he can go back to. I'm not really sure all the ins and outs and intricacies of like their strategic. I think their stuff, I think it's more like we're playing this map. Okay, you play Smokes, you play this, and I'm on your side. I just don't think that's very strategically advantageous for them to be bouncing around like that.
Yeah, I remember Ye back in the day was the El Diablo, and he was the one who was just slaying people out. And so he likes that role. That's a spot he feels comfortable with, and so them putting them in that spot probably freed up Superman too to kind of play that lurker role, who he just found the kills everywhere he was. He was unbeatable on the map.
Yeah, he had such a dominating presence, and I'm really interested on the outcome of this, right?
Yeah.
Because Crew was that other undefeated team. This loss, though, it took them from first place down to third when you look at map count. So now this bracket's starting to play out really a lot better, right, to how people expected it to from one loss. They had the chance to carry that torch all the way home.
We called it last week too. We said we weren't fully convinced that they were going to be the top team. We could see them slipping up, and right there it is.
This
And
was
now
the
they
one.
have to win.
Their final NA opponent. Their final, they had to beat the last American team, and they failed to. So it kind of does leave a little bit of a bad taste in your mouth. You would have been great coming out undefeated, big win over Sentinels and stuff, but now they're back at the top. So
And another thing that speaks volumes to me is like when I looked at it. So 4 out of the 5 guys for EG were positive. The only one that wasn't positive on the team was Ye. Ye's the duelist who they're setting up for everything. If everybody behind that duelist is positive, they're steamrolling you.
Yeah.
So that was one thing that stood out to me for sure.
Yeah. Maybe he's fallen. He's forgotten his old tricks. We had to relearn them.
He'll be fine. He'll be back.
He will be.
He'll be
fine.
back.
Yeah.
If he's playing Jet every week, it'll be fun.
Yeah.
I love Ye on Jet.
Yeah. Agreed.
I think EG, now with that win, they've pretty much secured their spot into the playoffs.
Yep,
So
locked in.
Their last matchup is Loud. And then Crew, if you're Crew, it's got to be heartbreaking because you have to end the week with 100 Thieves. You did not look good against EG. So I think that EG really opened up the playbook there.
And that's for the number 1 seed too.
Yep.
Whoever wins, that's going to have the number 1 seed in the Alpha seed side.
So our next game, we look at MIBR. They locked in playoffs with, really a dominating
Spicy
win over NRG. My pick was NRG. I think NRG have something cooking there, but MIBR just showed up and completely steamrolled them to really cement their spot. That sets up MIBR do or die next week against Leviathan. Winner makes it out. So any thoughts? Anyone catch that MIBR game?
I did. I caught the MIBR game. Very happy with them. I've been very vocal about my liking of Aspas. I thought he played very well. Thought, they're playing good as a team. I think they're a true threat. They're on the side of the bracket with G2, who I do think is the most balanced and well-rounded team in the whole competition. But I think MIBR is right there behind them. And if they can continue to get confidence and build steam, I think they're a very dangerous team.
yeah, they looked awesome. Aspas was literally styling on them, just dancing around the map on Jet, doing everything. It was unreal what that guy was doing, and there was a lot of animosity as well. It seems like Verno really harbored some resentment to this NRG team for them dropping him, and there was a lot of yelling. There were some tons of hilarious moments where Verno's popping off because MIBR finishes off the round and wins. He's screaming about how bad they are, and then later in the second map when NRG is up in some points, you hear they go to a listen in of Mata, and Mata's like keeping an eye on Verno, and he's like, oh, yo, he's so tilted right now. Like just keep it up. So there was so much comedy, so much drama in it. But overall, it really wasn't close. MIBR stomped them pretty much. There was just so many clutch rounds from all of the players there. And yeah, it was entertaining, not in terms of a close match, but in all the drama and all the comedy.
Yeah.
And I'll say this too. I think MIBR, in my opinion, out of all the top teams, I think excluding G2, they've been the most consistent out of anybody. I'm sitting here looking at their results right here. The only teams that have even taken a map off them are the other 2 top teams in the group, C9 and G2, who G2 beat them in the series. But only map dropped other than G2 is C9, 1 map. They're playing really good. They're doing what they're supposed to do. A lot of these other teams, Sentinels, 100 Thieves, you see them going up against teams they theoretically should beat and not handling business. They've been able to do it. So I like MIBR.
Hey, right. Last match, the one for the last spot in the playoffs, Leviathan versus NRG next week. Kepley, I can't wait.
I can't wait either. Leviathan's taking it, man. NRG just really. I think Leviathan has to be there, right? You can't have a playoffs without Demon 1.
That's right.
That's how it works in Valorant.
That's right.
I don't know why, but I think Leviathan won too.
I think my prediction would also be Leviathan. If I hadn't just watched NRG get absolutely mollywopped by MIBR, I would feel a little bit more confident in them, and I will be rooting for them, but I just don't think it'll happen.
We'll see if anybody's opinion changed between now and Thursday when our next show is, when we actually do our pick'em. So
Speaking of Molly Whoppins, yeah, now we got to go to Call of Duty.
Speaking of Molly Whoppins, we are going to Call of Duty next. We're going to talk through some stuff. Justin, go ahead and take it away, brother.
Yeah, so some super exciting CDL matchups this week across the board. All the roster changes are kind of settling down, or, maybe coming up some new ones. There's news breaking every single day in this league, it seems. But to start it off, we're going to talk about the rocker. So with Kenny, they have a good showing to start out this season, but coming into this week, 2 Game 5 losses. They're playing really good, but kind of just barely missing that last little thing they need to close out some maps and some series. But overall, I think pretty solid from what I've seen. How do you guys feel about them?
Oh my goodness, I don't know. Go ahead, Davis. I don't know.
I feel pretty solid about them. You know, like you said, I mean, they're doing a lot of things good and they're doing a lot of things the right way. They have some young talent on their team, 3 guys who are all new and young to the league. And they're all slaying out. You know, they have the gunpowder. The biggest thing for them is figuring out how to close out these maps. And I mean, they've been in so many game 5s, and that's kind of been the story of Minnesota Rocker since I've started watching the COD League, which was years ago. They always play game 5s. And so, you know, they just got to figure out how to close these maps out. They have the gunpowder to do it, just figuring out how to do it.
Yeah.
They all look so good at times too. Like each one individually. And there was one map where I think Geo dropped 0 kills and they won that map because somebody else, Purge, I think somebody popped off. But it's like if you have a team that's good enough to where another player can do so well that somebody else can get 0 kills and still win the map, that is like one of those impactful moments where I think you do have a lot of opportunity there, but they just cannot clutch. They just will not follow through on the clutch to win the game 5.
Yeah, I think this is the team out of all the teams in the league. This is the team that I put as like, let them cook a little bit, right? Because they're so close. Like even when they come out against Royal Ravens, I felt like they smashed them for the first 2 games, and then something happened, some shift in the air, and it all just started to come downhill. It was the caster curse, right? So just when you start hyping them up, something's going. I think as Kenny's leadership starts to evolve on these young guys, and you start to get that, they can get more mental resiliency. But it feels like it's just a hard drop off right now. But they're almost there. I mean, they're like on the brink of it.
They're so close.
They really are. I'm hoping they can keep optimism going through their camp and through their play stuff, because it's a good problem to have, making it to these game 5s and making it to these late rounds in those game 5s. And if too many times that happens and you aren't able to clutch it up, you can start being worried about the bad juju in the air and stuff. But I think you need to be able to have that perspective and much rather be in that situation with a chance to win than not even have a chance to be there. And I'm sure Kenny knows that that's a good feeling. He's probably feeling pretty good right now about being in these situations with where he was coming from. So yeah, shout out to the Rocker. Their play is improving steadily, and I think they're just one little step there away from it. Next up, we're going to move to a team that they faced, Carolina Royal Ravens. So they had a 1-1 weekend. They took the victory 3-2 over the Rocker, and then they lost another heartbreaking Game 5 against the Surge on Sunday. Very tough match to watch there. It was super close. It's really the story of this entire week was super close matchups. I think on Sunday we had 15 maps played and 3 best-of-5s. But yeah, so they really need to work on improving their respawn, and that seems to be the barrier that they have to jump over things. How do you guys feel?
They can't win in control. Yeah. It's just like not a control team, and that is a momentum match. You have to win that control. When you go to that second hard point after losing a control, it's so hard to bounce back. And you kind of, that's normally the way the series falls when it's a 3-1, is that hard point is just come into it, can't win it. They couldn't win the hard point. They go to the search and destroy and just are not able to close it out. Typical Carolina Royal Ravens for me.
100%. I'm right there. I mean, they are one of the best search teams in the game. They are absolutely dominant at search. They've got to figure out how to win a respawn. If they can figure out their respawn, I genuinely think they will be one of the top teams in the league. They don't necessarily have the best firepower to line up with like FaZe and like some of these teams, but with how good they are at search, if you can win searches like that, you can figure out how to win 1, maybe 2 respawns. You can win so many series.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
hit us with the news. Carolina Royal Ravens. What's going on with them?
Oh, I was trying to think of that name.
Yeah,
I forgot the name beforehand. So actually, why don't you hit them with the news?
I'll hit them with the news. Okay, so today we just saw right before we got on the show, they actually just dropped Vivid, and they are predicted to pick up Dylan Rex to be able to fill that spot. So obviously they've had enough of the idea that they can't win a respawn because they're switching out one of their ARs, which is normally somebody that you need to perform in those respawns in a big way in order to lock down those lanes and win that map. So they've made the changes. So they were, I think when we talk about the Rocker, it's like, hey, they're still really early on. They can improve. They can go and win those things. We've seen those players have explosive moments. Apparently, they didn't think that Vivid had enough of those explosive moments, and then they said, hey, we've had enough of this. We need to be able to change gears in order to get through, to make it to champs, do whatever they need to do. So
yeah, and we knew that there were issues in the camp. There have been rumblings about roster changes and stuff, and TJ Halley came out and he said that things were all good over here.
Hey, we're
and
good
then there
over
was
here.
nothing to worry about. Time proved him wrong. And yeah, so adding a Dylan Rex, I think this is a player who kind of deserves this shot. Been a top amateur player for a while now. And I do think, like we said, they have such a clear gap in their respawn capabilities that you need to make a change to win it. And I don't think this change is going to make them any worse in search. So I'm overall pretty positive on it. We saw a lot of the teams who have made changes at this point in the season have been elevated from that change. So I like that the Ravens are not content with just sticking with things and hoping that something will just magically change. They're trying to make something happen.
And I think one thing that's super interesting about the Royal Ravens too and their switch is they're in 5th place right now with 210 points. The next closest team to them has 130. So they have a huge gap. I think that they're one of those teams where, they're probably going to make champs, even if they didn't make this switch. Let's make this switch. Let's figure out how we can be the best possible at champs. So I think they're in an interesting position. Like I said, could be a top team if they figure out some respawns.
Totally.
Yeah, I would not be envious of anybody who has to make actual predictions about what is going to happen in the CDL right now. It's pure chaos. It makes for good viewing, but very difficult predictions. Our next match we're going to talk about was a battle of the green teams. We had Vegas versus Optic facing off Pred, claiming his revenge against his former team. They take the win 3-1 over the green wall. It was a pretty exciting match. The 6-5 Game 2 S&D was very entertaining. I know that there were some contentious opinions thrown around on this show on Thursday when I wasn't here. So I'm just going to throw it to the field and let them fight it out. How we feeling, boys?
Go ahead, Davis. Tell us how you feel.
Yeah,
What
tell me your
weekend.
perfect guess.
What a weekend for the Falcons. I honestly think it kind of happened just kind of how I expected. I really expected coming into this series, Pred to really make noise, really want to play as good as he can. I talked about Arcides, how he was really hungry coming up from the challenger scene, wanting to solidify his spot in the league again. And, facing off against who is basically the face of Call of Duty, Optic Texas, the holy grail of Call of Duty. This is your moment to do it. And I think they showed up with motivation. Optic was kind of cruising off of there. Oh, we made some roster changes. We played good last weekend. We won some matches. We'll probably beat these guys. And Vegas had different plans. They showed up ready to go, and they took it to them.
Vegas did show up. Vegas did play very well. So I will have to lay down and accept that. But XNID was really the one that impressed me the most this weekend. XNID and Pred, they were, two peas in a pod, right? Laying it down. RC is kind of like a silent, just assassin on the back end.
Put up some good numbers.
Yeah,
for sure.
and Optic just couldn't quite get a hang of where XNID was on the map. I mean, a lot of flanks there, a lot of getting caught off guard, Dashy trying to anchor, and XNID just kept getting the better of Dashy. And you just kept seeing Optic get defeated, really have trouble to rise up. I think it was Eli called Skies the vibe guy, right? So it's nice you have a vibe guy, but when your vibe guy looks as defeated as Skies did, like you don't have a vibe guy anymore, and you're right back to where you were. And if really, I think the biggest outcome of this is I don't think that it's embarrassing that you lost to the Falcons. That narrative's kind of going around a lot because when you look at Falcons for what the roster was to what the roster is now, completely different players. You start going rings for ring, right? Falcons is a good roster. I think that, when they face big adversity, they're going to have some problems because there's a lot of egos on that team. But Clayster is the coach. Maybe Clayster just has that under control, right? And if Clayster neutralizes that, this is a deadly roster. And talking to Andy over on Ty, he educated me on just how easily it could be that Falcons make a run and end up at champs this year. And I think that if they get locked in, right, they're 4-1 now in hardpoint, and they have a lot of good pieces there to be dominant in search too. You could see Falcons make like a huge comeback story. Think about what that would be.
Yeah, that would be insane.
Both of these teams are green. Both of them have made roster changes. Both of them suck. I don't think either of them are going to do anything.
Battle down there.
They're literally the bottom. Like I view them both as like maybe a fringe top 7, top 16. Both of them. I think none of them are going to go anywhere. I think every other team that is performing right now, I think the Ultra looks so much better. The Surge looks so much better. FaZe looks so much better. Thieves look so much better. I don't think they're going to be able to vibe in any capacity. I think the upside's not there for either of these teams. I think this was just a battle of the dumpster fires, and I think that the ego of AG was enough to be able to pull them through with XNED wanting the win more than anybody else, I think, because he had been playing for long enough and not gotten a win. But I think both these teams suck.
I think that's some valid analysis, and you can also look at some other things. This was the only match that Vegas had this week, whereas Optic had to play for 2, and there is a big difference between having to prepare for one team versus 2. it can really just, complicate things. It's twice as many outcomes, twice as many maps that you might have to practice. So all those things come into play. And I think I was really high on the Vegas win because Optic looked pretty solid last week. But once you have the whole thing in perspective, I think objectively you're right. But let us ride the hype train. And let us ride Davis's hype train for his correct prediction.
Nah, I mean, it's a good prediction. Nobody else. He was the only one who took the Falcons.
Yeah.
So kudos to David. Everybody.
Yeah, you had Nick on Hardstuck try to flip flop, but he didn't lock it in, so he's a loser like the rest of us.
Yes.
But I do want to say I think it's just like you said. I do not think this loss to Falcons really hurts Texas, honestly, at all, in my opinion. If anything, I think it wakes them up even more because I really do think that this roster that they have now is in a better spot to perform than the other roster before they made the moves. I think this is just a wake-up call. Hey, guys, we aren't quite as good as we were. I think it was really a grudge match, like you said. AG just decided he wasn't going to lose this match. They came in and did it. It's really kind of like you said. It doesn't really matter that much. They're not going to compete with the other teams.
Nah,
Yeah. Speaking of our final topic, this one did kind of matter and does kind of tie in from our last one. The Heretics from Miami, 2-0 this week, looking stylish and victorious. They were victorious over, I said that twice, over Optic in the first match they played, and then over FaZe in the second one. That first one, we'll give them a little bit of credit because it is two teams down near the bottom. So victory, getting the win over Optic is big, but winning over FaZe with the style that they did, with the moments that they had, I think this is a great moment for the Heretics. The roster change that they made, adding in Super, seems to have done some work for them, whether it's him stepping up or his teammates stepping up because they feel better now. Everything's looking pretty solid. How do you feel?
I was wrong about this roster. I thought that the Super Edition was really going to be a swap, but he's shown that he's showing up and slaying out, and he's made some crazy plays. Was getting triple kills all over the map when he was playing against Optic. Looked really, really good against FaZe. I think he rose this team up from probably an A-tier team to an S-tier team for me. I think I'm definitely looking at the Heretics now as an issue.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, what a time to do it, because to go back to what you alluded to earlier, right? We started talking about those champs points. I mean, you completely halt Optic, right? Who's like your closest contender is Miami because you crushed them. They're both tied at 130 points. And as we get closer to champ season, I mean, that gap is going to be the difference in making it or not. And you don't want to be in a situation like, I can't imagine a champs. I don't think anyone as a COD fan should want this, but I can't imagine a champs where Optic isn't there, right? Because Optic does kind of drive your viewers. But that's starting to look real. I mean, if Miami is kicking it up like this with Super, if they can't beat Falcons, Cloud9, they have some higher highs, I think, than Optic right now. And then you look at Rocker, right? Rocker's one round away from beating you too. And these are all teams that could just pass you. I think the only team that I haven't talked about is LA Gorillas, right? Because they're also kind of that bottom of the barrel team that you don't expect anything. But if you lose to someone like that, every match matters right now when you're that low on the leaderboard.
I'm going to come out and say it's time for me to eat my words as well. I was one of the people that said this roster move would not make much of a difference. I was quite wrong. Came out super huge series against Optic, 1.13 KD against them. Not quite as good of a KD, but a great series against FaZe as well for Miami. All the members were positive in that game. Yeah, Miami looks to be pretty dangerous, and I did not think that I thought they would be on the decline. They're clearly on the incline. 3-game win streak for them as well.
I think the one thing that we don't know about Miami right now is if they're going to perform on LAN.
That's what
we will see if that is going to be a factor, and so that would be the tried and true to SS tier is if they're going to compete on LAN. I don't know the answer to that.
That's the true deciding factor at the end of the day.
Yeah, but I mean, even online, I mean, FaZe looks so good, and they made FaZe. I mean, they really stumped FaZe.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
Different look for sure.
Yeah.
And this is so. I mean, they're tempoing really well. The tempo and the roll on when you get a little bit of an advantage and taking advantage of your advantage. 3 advantages? They got it all. They got all the advantages.
Cool. And like J-Dog said, against Optic, I was like, okay, I mean, this is a good win. Optic, I would have viewed a little bit higher, but beating FaZe, that's a big accomplishment there.
Absolutely. Okay, cool. Going to our next segment, we're going to look at some videos. We're doing some VOD review, some big plays from this weekend. Go ahead and hit us with the first one, Mr. Producer.
Money, but so's JT's hold, and he goes back to the other doorway. They're toying with him, trying to draw his attention in both directions. Eventually, the single door will strike. Zenterez gets his next one. It is Halzerk into another clutch, this time with a better gun, and the timing looks good here. They've already crossed over. Oh, what? The headshot! Another ping! No! Ridiculous! Norwegian dominance! Complexity to 12!
He points at his jersey. He knows. He did that by himself. I can't believe that first shot. The reaction is insane.
Yeah.
What?
Boom.
That's a world-class clutch. 4-12.
That's me. That's
Me.
me.
That's me. It's what he said. That's me.
What a clutch.
Yeah, Halzerk showing up big for complexity. One of those moments where I love the op side of that team, and I think that that is just a crazy play. Puts himself in the right position downstairs, and the Aurora players just don't know where he is, and is able to just the spray transfer was the wild thing for me. 2 players right in front of you, just get one and then the other. Very quick, very explosive play. Love that.
Yeah, the reaction time on the first kill too is crazy. Both of those, I think, are the 2 sides of how crazy it is. Like getting that first one to then put you in the position to even, like, you know, if you don't get that first kill, you get that spray transfer, you probably still lose the round. So everything just worked out great for him. I mean, you could see the reaction from Grim slamming his desks, just pure confusion about how did this guy just pull this off. That was a big tone setter.
Absolutely. And our next clip coming up now, we got some electronic throwing it down against the other team.
To win, considering how things started for Virtus Pro, getting locked in T-spot, and you feel like they've just got to be so angry. This is earlier, that second round. Here's the
I think he said plant.
yeah, it's the most calm reaction you'll see.
Yeah, that was pretty chill.
Yeah. Well, you could see that there is some frustration.
He got the point across, I think.
Yeah, he did. But
Kepley, plant the bomb.
Yeah.
Just plant the bomb. What are you doing?
Guy literally looked like me playing Counter-Strike, like just mad. Just like, how did I even die to that? Doesn't make sense.
I've got the Russian translation here. He's basically shouting at his teammate. He was telling him to plant it behind the site. He planted in a spot where he's just completely open to just getting destroyed by the enemy team, and definitely let the frustration get the best of him. I mean, I guess it's valid because that is a pretty dumb mistake to make, especially if, you know, Electronic is telling you to place it there and you plant it somewhere else. But a little bit much.
I don't think he was supposed to plant there.
Yeah.
I think they're going to talk about that one in the VOD review, guys.
And you're translating Russian on the fly?
That's right.
You should be worried about him.
Yeah. Just don't say the specific phrase that gets it. And, you know, just to note the context of that clip, they end up winning that match. There was, you know, it was no struggle afterwards. They 2-0 Astralis and move on. So the snap worked.
Hey, that's right. Virtus Pro, they took down Astralis. That's right. Next up, CDL Rancor versus Abizi.
I thought that he did. I mean, I assumed that he could. 1v1. Down to the 1 versus 1. You were hoping he'd hammer open the door and fry him, right? Yeah. Oh, tags in. This should be an Abizi round winner. So he get caught sprinting, something down to 29. Beautifully played with the pre-fire there from Rancor.
Only 4 bullets.
Gets the reload in, 25 seconds to go. Rancor repositioning, gets spotted. Snap in from Abizi, but wiggling and dancing is Rancor. Still enough time, though, to hunt him down.
Rancor versus Abizi. Rancor went on to win that round. It wasn't close. He danced around the whole time. He also won 2 other 1v1s that round, so that game. So he was popping off, but we saw he just played the site so well. Break it down for us, Davis.
Like you said, the movement, just dancing around the whole map. Abizi could never get a really good angle, a good chance to kill him, and he's just wasting time. He knows the bomb's down the whole time. He does actually end up killing him at the end of that clip, but it had developed so far that he didn't even need to kill him. He could have just ran around and had his pistol out and died, and the bomb would have still exploded. So, you know, playing the game objectively, like we've talked about on the show before, doing what you have to do. It's not about kills all the time. It's just about doing what you need to do to get the win.
He was looking like a young Kepley on the paintball course out there. Ducking and diving around that thing. Can't see him, man.
Yeah,
Not fighting Abizi.
I don't think I quite had the Omni movement going for me. But no, yeah, I mean, I wanted to highlight that because, I mean, Rincor, I mean, that's not a name that you're going to expect to go 1-for-1 with a BZ, right? Especially in that clutch situation. But I think it just shows that kind of mindset evolution that roster has right now with Super, that everyone's in high spirits, and Rincor just, like, the Highland. I mean, it was just such a sick play that everyone's on the edge of their seat that whole time.
And you never see a BZ like that. That's the main thing that I noticed too, is like, I mean, this is a BZ who we've been watching for years dominate as a sub. And in that play, you can tell that he doesn't really know how to handle it. Rincor almost
looks like an
killed
amateur.
him. Yeah,
Like, yeah.
Rincor almost killed him the one time, and then he instantly runs back in the garage and is hiding. Surprised me.
All right, next up, Nature on EG, showing us how it's done in the clutchest of moments.
Okay, the ult is going to be used to try and clear the way through.
Yeah, but the gate crash is coming back to B.
Yeah, faking that presence again, but yeah, you haven't really removed any of the thorns prior. There's only 38 seconds left. Cosmic Divided even being committed here. There's a flash into the face as well. No connection, and even a return. That's it. Swinging in through the back. This is all crew now. In control. Thorns not broken in time here, but might not be too much of a problem to pull. It's being denied. EG, hold on, Nature. He's finding some ground here, but no coverage in for the back there, but okay, Nature's already found himself the 3-piece, but left into that 1v2. He'd have to ace to finish this one off. Kesnith round to the side just with the shoulder, and he's found that first kill. Okay, still Garden. It's available. 8 seconds left and remaining. Plant down, but you're sticking your body out just a little bit too wide there. Does Melza know? He's going to know now. Up towards heaven. This is it. An ace potentially to seal this one up, and playing time, backs out wide. He just wants to fight. He wants to end this round here, and now, and he spots it out.
That is how it is done. Nature showed up in big moments, got all 5 of the eliminations against a match that they needed to on the hot crew right now.
Yeah, Nature, I mean, just the in-game leader for that team, showing he can step up when he needs to, getting that ace on that. I was talking to my buddy Patrick over from Skill Diff on that show, a little bit about that clip. Icy, apparently this is why Icy got kicked off another roster, because he had some silly Yoru play going in there, but it's like, it just goes to show that even when a round is at its worst, right, you can trust in people like Nature to step off. I don't know, it was one of those highlights from Valorant for an otherwise, like, you know, kind of expected weekend.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the round was going absolutely terrible, as bad as it probably could have gone at the start, with Yoru diving in and just dying for free. Nature stepping up, huge ace to get his team to win.
Hey, there you go. And the last, but certainly not least, Thanatos showing us how to stay alive in the bot lane.
When you're picking Rise, you're not really picking to dominate. You're picking just kind of farm and scale. Yeah. And he likely gets to get the plate on that last auto. Isles would have been spotted by that deep ward in that back brush, so Thanatos should know it. And if Thanatos wants to play around with this, he could kind of play a little bit dumb and try to potentially bait him, because Blabber's down here on this side of the map. So Blabber could move over here, and they could try to see if they could find a counter gank, especially now that Blabber is 6. It would be a pretty good angle, but we'll see if Blabber's going to go for it. It looks like he's pathing more up.
And Isles started the sweeper when he already started walking. If he had done it while stationary in the mid-brush, he would have actually spotted that. So now Thanatos is basically saying, is he still there? Is it still happening? And I don't think Thanatos realized that Isles committed for the long con. Thanatos trying to get that Mega Bar all the way up. He's actually close, about to hit Mega, does get a big amount of health right there, but has no backup. Jumps away, has Flash. I think Thanatos might get out of there. Rooted up, now Shaden's in the neighborhood. Flash 4 for Miles, Flash with Thanatos. He's out of there. Nicely.
What a crazy play. I think he was playing hide-and-seek with the rest of the lobby. He knew what he was doing. He got jumped, and then he got out. Insane play.
All I know is Dignitas has got to be securing that kill, though. That's the main thing that I got from that clip. I mean, it kind of shows what we're talking about. Dignitas being a bottom team, if you're playing these teams that are in that top 4, they're getting that kill no matter what. And you've got to get that kill. That was a terrible kill to let get away for Dignitas.
They are. It was objectively a good setup. I mean, they should have got the kill into the Gnar. Surdy on the rise, uses his Rune Prison on a cannon minion, kind of misses out on some of that damage, buys enough time for that mini Gnar to transform into the Mega Gnar, gain some of that health back, get the double stun, and just survive the gank, which is big because Blabber had left him. You know, Blabber was on Krugs that started out and had just started pathing up to the top side, and that was a big play there for Thanatos. The score was 0-0 in the game, giving up first blood. Doesn't carry the same weight it did before when it had that big 500 gold bounty on it, but still, you don't want to give a bottom team a way into the game that they could potentially get an upset from. So kudos.
Hey, making plays on the Gnar. Love to see it. All right, cool. Going into the next section, we're doing Clutch or Kick. We're looking at community comments that people have posted on X. We're going to say if we like it, we're going to clutch it up, or or if we're going to kick them out of the lobby so that we can play by ourselves. First one, Easy Mac showing up. He's the guy who does the stats for Breaking Point for all the Call of Duty teams. He says that I swear this is the last thing I'll say today, but that's 15 players from EU that have backed out early, and some did multiple times. It's whatever if it's 2 or 3 players, two to three players, but nearly 1 to 3 of the elite did it. It ruins all the advanced stats. Players are leaving the lobby early, and Easy Mac is doing his best to collect the stats. So I want to know, clutch or kick, should Easy Mac do this? We know these players are always going to leave the lobby. The COD kids in the challenger scene are ungrateful at times. Easy Mac's doing the best he can. Do you think Easy Mac should continue to try and help these kids, or do you think that he should just give up on it? Are we clutching or are we kicking? Davis, clutch or kick? What do you think?
I'm going to go with clutch. I think it's a great idea, and I think it's something that could really help these players develop. You know, if you have good stats, this is a great way for you to get noticed and get picked up by a pro league team. So I think it's a great thing to do. I mean, if he continues to be disrespected, I guess, a little bit, then maybe it's a kick, but I think it's clutch for now.
Kepley.
I think it's clutch. I mean, we hear kind of around the scene, I'm not as close to this, but you hear around the scene, like, more challenger players need exposure. They need to get a chance to go up to the CDL, right? And one way to do that is let these pro teams see your stats, see your top performer. So I'm gonna take a wager that these players that are problematic are probably not your best players in the league from the challenger scene. But if they are, then they should really start to understand the severity of it. But yeah, definitely a clutch.
2 clutches. All right, Justin.
I'm a kick. I think he should give up on it. I think that it's not worth the effort. The fact that these players are leaving, not just in regular season matches with no stakes, like in playoff matches, once they're down in the 3rd map and they're going to lose, they just leave early and then it messes the stats up for everybody. I feel for Easy Mac. I've been in that position in esports doing this like volunteer work for these people who you know need the help and should be doing it. And it's a difficult position because the ones who could benefit most are not the ones who are causing that issue, but it seems like it's starting to get to him and really starting to affect, like, you know, personal health and personal happiness. So I think let it go. Be happy, Easy Mac.
That's right. Easy Mac, I will speak. I'm with Justin on this. Kick it. These players are not going to turn their ways. They need the data. You're doing the right thing, but the players are not going to help you in the end. They're all going to keep doing that. Just doing your thing, brother. I appreciate the work you're doing. I just think the players are not really going to help you in the end. And I think that you can't really stop that. I don't think you're going to change it. All right, on to the next. Go ahead.
So next up, we're going to look at the Marathon reveal. This is a tweet from Synth Potato here saying that Marathon just looks fine. I can't really imagine playing this for more than a few hours without getting bored. But that aside, the fact that it's not free to play is insanity. There's no reason you'd play this over other free to play games like Apex, Warzone, Fortnite, and D2. So my question for you guys, clutch or kick, was it a smart decision for Bungie to make Marathon be a paid game with that $40 price line and not be a free-to-play game? There's upsides to both. Free-to-play games have much more accessibility, potentially drawing more people to spend money on your microtransactions, whereas having a game with some upfront payment potentially makes it more successful and much more like return on investment immediately for the studio. How do you guys feel on that? Clutch or kick on the decision to make it not free-to-play?
Davis, you go first.
I'm kind of torn, but I think I'm going to say kick because to my understanding of this game, you know, being something with abilities and different agents and things like that, I think it opens up the avenue to where microtransactions can be very prevalent in the game and you can make a lot of money from that, being different skins for different agents, different abilities looking different. And so I think that's something that they could have really benefited from. But I will say, I mean, in the extraction shooter genre, there isn't many free-to-play options out there, so maybe they felt pressured by that as well to just go ahead and, you know, they are going to be one of the cheaper options, so maybe they think it'll be beneficial.
So you think it should be free-to-play?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a kick.
Yeah, it's a kick. Go ahead. Yep.
I'm gonna say kick, not because of the price tag.
Okay.
I really could go either way with this. I think it's okay that it's $40. I'm only saying kick because I play D2. So I'm mostly going to disagree with the tweet. D2 is not free to play. That guy's an idiot. But but when you look at Marathon, like Marathon should maybe have a price tag because you want some ROI. But I know Bungie, because I play D2, there's going to be microtransactions in this game regardless. So I think the community would want us to say kick, but we got to see how they do the market, right? So for now, I'll say it should be free to play because I know there's going to be microtransactions.
I think clutch. I'm going to go clutch. I think you have to be able to get your game paid for. Call of Duty people play every year. They pay $70. It's one of the greatest games ever sold. And they have microtransactions. I love free-to-play games. I know a lot of players do. I think you can support publishers with paid games if they reach a certain standard. I do think this game, when it releases, will get to that standard. So I'm saying clutch. Go ahead.
I'm going to be kick. I think that free-to-play is the way forward, and I think that, Davis, your point about there not being really any other free-to-play extraction shooters is an argument for going free-to-play. This could be what kind of keeps people away from the genre. I know that extraction shooters do have a fairly sizable player base that just don't really talk anywhere. It was a surprise to me when I found out that like 70,000 people still play Tarkov. But so yeah, I think making a free-to-play one would get in people who would otherwise not go. Valorant players, Apex players, all these things, because like we talked about at the top of the show, I don't know if this is going to draw the Halo audience just because of the Bungie name, so I think you should be looking to draw it from somewhere else.
I am going to hot swap here.
Okay.
He made a point that I agree with.
Clutch.
Okay.
He made a point. I'm going to go clutch because he made the Call of Duty point. I'm the biggest Call of Duty hater, but people do buy it every year for $70.
Do.
This game's probably going to be like $40. It's not going to be the price of a full game. So that to me now justifies early entry price. Probably going to do what Tarkov did. You can get it for 20, 30, 40 bucks, whatever, and the price will raise over time. You'll have different editions. $40 probably entry with microtransactions. I get behind it. Clutch.
There you go. 2 clutches, 2 kicks.
Split again.
Split again. That's right. We're not super clutch or not super kick at this point. All right, number 3. Go ahead, Kep.
We're going to look at this tweet about Valorant where Demon1, the topic is from Not Ghost. He puts up this performance against the #1 seed, and they still call him washed. A lot of community hate on Demon1, but you can kind of look at that stat line there. Is he being wasted on Leviathan? Should he look, Demon1, should he look for another home? Clutch or kick on really the community opinion here, right? Clutch if you think he's being wasted, or kick you think he should go somewhere, or you think he should stay there at home in Leviathan. I'll start with you.
I think kick on the community sentiment. He's not washed, and I do think he's being wasted on Leviathan. I don't know if I actually got that right for a clutch.
Yeah, clutch.
Okay, then I'm clutch. I think he is an amazing player, and I do think he's being wasted. I think that either he should leave Leviathan or they need to throw the recipe out the window and come in with some new ingredients and build around him again, because he's a beast.
I agree. Clutch is the only reason they have any success at this point. He needs to go find a new home and get a new roster, make some changes.
Yeah, I'm going to clutch it too.
2, 3 clutches.
Clutch as well.
No! Get off of that roster, Demon1. Go find a new home. You're too good. You're too good.
MIBR?
Demon1 on Brimstone? You've got to be kidding me. That's
ridiculous.
Terrible.
Unless it's Aspas who is playing Duelist in front of him. Then I'll take that.
Hey,
but I'm not taking King over him.
No.
Super clutch. There we go. On to the next. Davis. Last one.
Yeah, so for the final one, we're going to talk here, basically a clip of Scump is kind of being pressured by the community to step in amidst Optic's kind of turmoil. And so basically we're going to frame this as clutch. You do think Scump should step in and help this roster because how big of a part he's been for Optic in the past. Kick, you don't think it's his responsibility anymore. He's a content creator now. He needs to let the coaches and players deal with everything.
Got it. Go ahead, play the clip.
Could you give the boys a pep talk, some words of wisdom? I know the boys got this, but I feel like you're such a huge impact on them. See, though, there's nothing that I can tell them that they don't already know, though, bro. That's the thing. People always say, do you talk to them? Do you give your insight? And it's like, honestly, no, because a lot of people have been trying to come at the coaches, too. JP and Damon, bro, they're telling, I promise you, they are doing a good job in telling them everything they got to do. It's not, sometimes you just don't execute.
Who wants to go first? Cap.
I'll go first. I think if clutch was, he should stay out of it.
No, clutch is you think that he should.
Clutch, he needs to get involved. Kick is.
I think kick. He doesn't need to get involved in there. I mean, Scump, he does have a big part of it, right? That's his home, right? He built a dynasty there in Optic. Of course, he's going to be attached to that name. I think right now the community's just grasping at straws. They just want something to change for Optic. So you're saying, Scump, please come help. But the only thing Scump could do to help is get back in the ring and start swinging. And he's past that point in his career. So I'm going to say Kick. He doesn't need to get involved.
Kick. I'm with Kick. I think he is not the coach. JP, Karma, they're the coach. Let him go, coach. Let him do his thing.
Yeah, I'm Kick as well. I don't think that there's anything Scump particularly has to offer them. I think he knows that. I think the suggestion is absurd, and he's just being a little nice because the person donated him money. But it was a dumb suggestion, and yeah, I mean it's the same. Like you said, they're grasping for straws. Before it was Hex, do anything you can to help us. Then Hex did what he could. Now it's Scump. Well, I mean, who are we gonna go to next? We'll call Big T back. Like, yeah,
Hey,
on that.
I get behind that.
I think it's a Kick as well. The one thing that I will say that I think is interesting, though, someone in the comments is saying this, Scump directly played with Dashy and Shotzi. So I think, he could definitely step in and talk to them on a teammate level genuinely and talk to them about what's going on, maybe things that they need to do better and work on personally. But I'm on your guys' side. There's nothing that Scump can tell them that the coaches aren't going to tell them. So
Super Kick. Let freaking Scump just sit there and do whatever he's doing. Make him be a player.
Yeah, let him go to Valorant. We'll put him on Leviathan.
That's right. We'll put him on Leviathan. Okay, all right, we're closing it out today. We got one more segment for you guys called the Showdown. It's going to be quick, hot, and in a hurry. Okay, currently, mobile esports is king. It's the biggest viewership, most players, because your device is most accessible. J-Dog, give me, if you think mobile esports supremacy on the rise, on the fall, what do you think?
I think it's on the rise, and it's only going to continue to rise. There's such a large amount of people who play games on their phones, who just have phones, and accessibility is the most important thing to esports success. I think it'll only get better as the technology that we have access to in our phones continues to improve. I think there's a world where mobile gaming becomes the only form of gaming. Just eventually it'll be to the point where our mobile devices can have the same processing power as video games, and then I just need to put my Vision Pro over my head, and then I can play Marathon. No PC, no console needed. It's just all on my phone. So heck yeah, mobile esports supremacy on the rise. Next topic, got this one for you, Kepley. We're going to talk about esports organizations, mergers, and acquisitions. So the finances of esports is a very delicate topic being thrown around right now. It's been being talked about for years. A lot of Saudi money coming in through the Falcons, potential mergers from other teams. Do you think that this is a trend that we will continue to see in the coming years? Do you think it's something that's good for the esport? How do you feel?
I think we will continue to see it rise, and this is really a debate on organic versus inorganic growth. I think that the reason Optic fan base is so passionate, FaZe is so passionate, is that organic growth. And when we try to see that inorganic come, where Optic got bought by Envy, I think it was, in that organization, like you see that kind of start to fall apart a little bit. So I think we will see it, but the fan base is going to be weak, and that's going to lead to less viewership. Same thing, Call of Duty effect. If Optic's there, great viewers. If not, no viewers. So next topic, as we transition there, we're going to have a betting's double-edged sword. So a lot of times gambling websites, that's kind of like the hot take here. It really rubs a lot of people wrong. Counter-Strike loves it though, but Riot has changed their position here to where they're going to start to allow betting sponsorships for these teams. However, the players cannot wear those logos on their jerseys, and the player age minimum went from 17 up to 18. Davis, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's actually, I'm not going to say if it's a good or a bad thing. I'm just going to say I think they were very pressured into this situation because, I mean, look at all aspects of life, traditional sports and esports. Gambling is taking over. The money, wherever you can get the money from, it's there.
Money talks.
Exactly, and it's coming. So I think, sustainability was a big key in making this decision, and I think that they kind of ended up at the point where they had to allow this to happen to really have money coming in from a lot of different areas. So to jump over from that, we're actually going to talk about AI and its integration into our lives as well, and how it's being integrated into everything. It's also starting to make a way into esports, and there's been plenty of adoption for operations, training, spectators, and experience within esports. And so CJ, I'm here to ask you, do you think this is a good thing, and how do you think that this will affect the esports landscape?
I think it's going to affect it in big ways. I think people are going to start using it to figure out how many times teams are going A, teams are going B, what strategies are being run by their side, by VOD reviews. So people are going to throw VODs into a machine. It's going to tell them what teams like to do, how to counter those teams. and that those are how strategies are going to be developed in the future. It's going to be faster. It's going to be quicker. It's going to be more on the fly. I think this is the future of what esports is going to look like, along with other things in the pieces of esports. J-Dog, to you, rise of community casting. We're seeing a lot of community streams pop up for a lot of different games. You don't watch the mainstream anymore. You watch Scump and his homies talk about the game. Do you think this is the future? Do you think that it's going to die?
I think that it's going to die, not because of bad quality or lack of interest from people, but I don't believe that the developers will allow this to continue. It's taking too much away from their broadcasts. They're losing the ability to get sponsorships. I love watching co-streams. It's one of the only ways that I actually consume esports. So personally, I'm a big fan of it, but I don't think they're going to open that rabbit hole in future games. I think when game developers release new esports titles in the coming next 5-10 years and stuff, they're never going to license out the ability to restream the broadcast to anybody that they don't personally have in their stadium that they can fully control. That makes me sad because I do love co-streaming. Next topic for Kep. There's some new regional powers in the esports world. Some small regions that previously people had completely ignored are popping up with large player base numbers and drawing significant audiences and sponsorships and attention from the world, specifically Vietnamese, Ukraine, and Japan. Do you think that this is going to continue? Do you think that this is something you support? I know we talk a lot about Counter-Strike with the geolocated teams like Eternal Fire and stuff. What do you think?
I think it'll continue to happen. So as the regions grow, it's kind of, I think of like the Olympics, right? And we have the Esports World Cup now. It's kind of the Olympics. So when you have that, more regions, more people that can participate. Riot's been very good at this. Now Counter-Strike's historically always been good at it. More regions, more people, more viewership. And then I think you're going to see kind of like those foreign regions viewership rise. And then America's taper off because the reality is America teams typically suck in these games. And we only like to watch when we win. You know, we can see that in real sports. We can see that in the Olympics, et cetera, right? No one cares about American hockey really until they're in the finals of the Olympic, right? Fighting for the gold. And I think that's going to continue happening. So now we go to the next topic, streamers as esport moguls. Hopefully I said that right. Davis, we're starting to see streamer-founded organizations. We've got Disguised, right, who's made they're the guest slot in the LTA. We're seeing the near airport team. We're even seeing Cadril with Los Ratones, right, where they're starting to leverage their viewership and their fan base's funding. Do you think that we're going to keep seeing some of these streamer-founded organizations, and are they going to be competitive?
I do. I think in the short term, I think that we would definitely continue to see it as we've seen the success from Los Ratones. But I do think eventually it's going to get to a point where they stop doing this because, you know, I think as a viewer, it sounds really cool to be able to watch these guys and, you know, see their strategies and see how they do things. But eventually it's going to get to a point where these teams are going to be like, okay, well, we can't show this. Like, we can't show these strategies right now, just simply based off competition. So I do think in the short term, since the success from Los Ratones and teams like Disguised Toast team, I think there will be some more coming up, but I don't think it'll be very long-lived. But moving on to the next thing, we have talks about the Olympic Esports Games in 2025, which actually is endorsed by the International Olympic Committee. It will be held in Saudi Arabia and could feature prize money comparable to traditional sports. Esports World Cup already drawing in over 500 million viewerships and showing that there is mainstream acceptance. CJ, what are your thoughts on the Olympics possibly introducing the Olympic Esport Games?
I do not care about the label of the Olympics at all. MLG was great back in the day. People loved it. They wanted to compete. They had prize pools and a stream. I think it's the same thing. People are trying to legitimize it with something that they don't need to use to legitimize it. I think anything viral that exists in the what would be like a fad or something like that will help esports rise, but I don't think you need the Olympic banner in order to do it. That's going to be the showdown, and that's going to be the show for us on Queued Up. Thanks for joining us. Tune in next Friday for our next episode. It was great to see you, and thank you